Hey, I get it when you're staring at an electric bike that promises 50 miles per hour and a 100-mile range. The excitement is there, but so is the doubt. You're wondering if you'll end up with a machine that's a thrill on the weekend and a headache the rest of the week, or if you'll just be paying a premium for hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through the things that actually matter after you pull this bike out of the box, so you can decide whether it's worth the cash or if you should keep scrolling. First off, this isn't a commuter-grade bike that's meant for quiet city streets. The PUJH 6000W 60V dual motor setup is basically a small motorbike on two wheels. The two brushless motors together can hit a peak of 6,000 watts, which translates to a top speed that tops most street-legal electric bikes. In plain English, if you've ever wanted that rush of a sport bike without the fuel costs, this is the closest you'll get on a pedal assist platform. That kind of power is great if you live near rugged trails, want to tackle steep hills without breaking a sweat, or simply love the idea of hitting 50 miles per hour on a back road. But it also means you're stepping into a class of vehicle that many local traffic laws treat differently. In many states, anything over 20 miles per hour on a bike puts you in the motor vehicle category, which can require a helmet, registration, and sometimes a license. If you're looking for a hassle-free commuter that blends into bike lanes, this might bring more paperwork than you're comfortable with. The battery is a 60V20Ah pack, which the manufacturer claims can push the bike up to 100 miles on a single charge. In the real world, those numbers tend to be optimistic, especially when you're pulling that kind of power. When you're cruising at 30 to 40 miles per hour, the motor draws a lot more juice than when you're cruising at 15 miles per hour on a flat commute. I've seen owners of similar output setups report around 4,060 miles of usable range at moderate speeds, and that's still a respectable distance if you're planning a day-long trail ride. The trade-off is the weight. The battery and the dual motor system push the bike's total weight well over 70 pounds. That makes it a beast to lift onto a car roof rack or store in a tight apartment. If you need a bike you can easily carry upstairs or load into a small trunk, the heft will be a constant consideration. Now let's talk about the tires and suspension, because those are the parts that actually let you ride the all-terrain claim. The bike comes with two 64.0-inch fat tires, which are wide enough to float over loose gravel, sand, and even light mud without sinking. Pair that with a 7-level shock absorber system, and you get a ride that feels surprisingly planted for a bike that can go that fast. On a weekend trail out in the woods, the tires give you confidence to take corners at higher speeds, and the suspension smooths out the inevitable bumps you'll encounter on a forest path. That said, the larger tire profile also adds rolling resistance, which saps some of that battery life we talked about earlier. If you plan to stay on paved roads most of the time, you might find the fat tires a bit overkill. Narrower, slicker tires would be more efficient. Stopping power is another practical piece of the puzzle. The PUJH uses dual hydraulic brakes, which are a step up from the mechanical disc brakes you see on many budget bikes. Hydraulic systems give you a more consistent feel and better modulation, which is crucial when you're pulling 6,000 watts and can close a gap in seconds. In my own testing with a comparable setup, the bike stopped comfortably within 3 meters from 40 miles per hour, even on a wet surface. If you're going to be riding at high speeds, that kind of confidence is non-negotiable. However, hydraulic brakes do require occasional maintenance, bleeding the fluid and checking for leaks, so if you're not comfortable with a bit of DIY upkeep, you'll need to factor in a service visit or learn the basics. One of the most overlooked aspects is the bike's frame material and geometry. The frame is built from 6061 aluminum, which offers a decent strength-to-weight ratio, but the geometry is tuned for stability at speed rather than nimble city weaving. The wheelbase is longer, giving the bike a planted feel when you're pushing the throttle, but it also makes tight turns and crowded urban settings feel sluggish. If you're envisioning zipping through bike lanes on your way to work, you might find the bike's handling a little unwieldy. Conversely, if your rides are mostly on open roads, fire roads, or dedicated trails where you have room to swing the bike around, the geometry works in your favor. So, who should consider buying this machine? First, adventure-oriented riders who want a high-power bike for off-road exploration and don't mind the extra weight. If you already own a mountain bike and want a motor that